Okay, before anyone comments on my critique saying that I'm bullying and stuff like that, I would recommend you read the disclaimer. I'll keep it up for a few seconds just for you guys to read it all. Got it now? Good. Now let's go on to the critique now. You know, the critiques I've done so far are all negative, but this series isn't just all negativity, so let's look at some users who are actually pretty good for once. Along with many, many other bad stuff. My god, can I not escape the bad stuff? Also, happy birthday to me. I'm 17 now, so that's pretty epic. Sup guys, Spacey here, and since I've already tackled two of the worst members of the Packaged Reviewer fandom, I feel like it's time to review the rest of the peeps in this fandom. And while I do think the fandom overall is pretty I feel like it's causing some toxic influences in the rant sphere, and some of these people evolved have some flaws or have some bad elements to them I think should be addressed. I also think since Bracket Neutron made Package himself improve a few years ago thanks to pointing out his flaws, I think I could do the same with these people since I think they need a nice nudge in order to get their series done right or to the best of their ability. Seriously, even I, back in 2017, wasn't all that good, and I needed some criticism in order to help me get out of the little sludge I was getting through. So yeah, don't pressure yourself just because I criticize you. We all have to come from someplace after all. I'll also criticize these creators' artwork as well, since art is a pretty important part of their videos, and I'm just getting back into artwork myself, so I think dishing out criticism to them would be pretty useful. So yeah, now that I realistically got everything I want to get out of the way, let's get to criticizing some people. But before we get to the clones, the fanboys, and other such things, let's cover the original member of the fandom. So Package is someone who I had many thoughts on, even before his fandom spawned. At first, I thought he was just a Bracket Neutron wannabe, with boring videos that have rather mixed points. Bracket's video on Package slightly later cemented it for me that I should avoid Package. This avoidance lasted until around rant 19 or 20, I'm not 100% sure on that, but when I did get back at the Package, he certainly did improve a lot. For one thing, he finally got himself his own identity in the ranting scene, rather than just leeching off of Bracket Neutron. The pace of his rants started to increase, and I think they went way faster, and all the points were great and had way more structure to them, while back in his earlier rants, his points got rather mixed to bad in many instances. And while I still consider Bracket Neutron a way better and funnier creator, Package is still a great ranter, and if you want to watch his rants, I would recommend starting from around rant 18 or so, and then move forward from there, as his older rants really are the most blah-ish rants I've seen. But if you start from rant 18 onwards, then I honestly think that you should be fine. In fact, fuck it. Here's a bit of a Package Reviewer tier list just for your convenience. This list might increase over time, but for now, this is what I got. So yeah, it proves that I can change hearts about a content creator, and shows that content creators can improve and become good, hell, even great in my eyes. And while Package is great, the influence he would have would be monstrous. Even when he was mediocre, he gained tons of traction for a newbie. But this traction will go on to make something that is inevitable for popular creators. Clones! Yes, there's a bunch of clones of Package Reviewer. Some taking some more influence than others, I feel. So let's get tackling these clones and see where they could possibly improve, or if they are good, how much would I recommend them? Well, first, we head towards the smallest creator on this list, and one who's a big brute Russian, that being Daniel Soulja. He only has one critique video to his name, that being the Kobe Productions rant, but it's a pretty good rant for a first impression, as it has good editing, great jokes, and has some pretty solid points in it. It's way better than Package Reviewer's video on Kobe, that's for sure, and this was made in 2017, so he has definitely headed upwards since then, especially with his art. Like, his 2017 artwork had everyone's favorite MS Paint cliche, Circle Tool, but now it's genuinely great, with its own unique style that I personally really dig. a massive improvement from 2017, that's what I could say. So yeah, this may sound kind of short, but there's only one video to him. Though, a second episode was planned on Jack Mugen, but I guess that got cancelled once my video got out, so yeah. I don't know what's happening next with the series now, but if another episode of Yo content is coming soon, I would be very happy about it. But for now, Daniel Soulja is a pretty good content creator, and I think you should sub to him while waiting for Yo content too. Or if you don't really care about his videos, I would still suggest following his DeviantArt and other social medias where he posts his art, as it's still really good. Now we get into a slightly bigger creator with Fat Autistic Kid, otherwise known as Ernex, who, while for the most part makes really great memes, he also has 2 videos critiquing other users. And while I do think some of the backgrounds and stuff can be very basic, Ernex's voice is so sexy, he could read the entire phone book and I would never get bored. He also makes great points in these videos themselves as well, which overall makes them very funny and entertaining videos to watch. They also have tons of soul as well, which manages to come off as really good, and I think it manages to make these videos special in their own way. The only thing I can suggest about him in his rants, at least if he is still doing these, is that I hope he manages to add stuff like backgrounds and stuff into the video themselves so that the ending comes off as less amateurish, because while the ending's really good right now and is filled with quick transitions and emotions, I think they need a little bit more of improvement in terms of backgrounds and stuff. Could really help a lot when it comes to making these videos. But overall, that's all I really got for him. He's a really funny critiquer, and I really hope he continues on in the future, because these 2 videos show that he can do this for a living, honestly. And I do mean that literally. Gray is up next, and while I did previously give her criticism, I still think a video will get my points across better and help her with some more stuff that I feel like still needs to be done. Of course, this doesn't mean Gray is completely bad. I still think that the episode improvement from episode 1 to 2 was very great and a nice improvement overall, and she also takes the criticism to heart very well. So yeah, I feel confident to help her improve some more and give her the criticism she desperately needs. And before I go and criticize her work, I'll say that most of the stuff only really applies to episode 2, since episode 1 is way inferior to episode 2 in every way. So yeah, let's get criticizing her work right now. So my first problem with Gray's videos is the garbage text. I say using a bigger and more readable font would help a lot, and I would also recommend you not stretch them, as it makes it look way uglier and harder to read. So yeah, this issue is a pretty easy one to fix, but it'll be a great one to fix and will make your videos so much more better to watch. Next is the drawings you see in the videos and the art itself. It looks, ironically enough, like one of those DA MS Paint artists, just without the abusive shapes. Sure, it has potential, but there's still a lot holding it back. Some of the problems I have with the art personally include the fact that the art is rather off when it comes to the anatomy, because, well, there's no references being used and stuff like that, which could potentially help with the anatomy, because right now it looks rather messy and almost childlike. The fact the liner is so wonky, because this is MS Paint after all, I believe anyway, based off what I've seen, and I think another program like Krita or GIMP would allow for more smoother liner with a mouse. So yeah, you should probably switch to another program when it comes to that. And the eyes, well, they look very off. With just one streak going through it, it really makes the art look very unnatural. I think adding something like a pupil would help a lot here, as the pupil will allow the characters to actually feel like they're seeing stuff, rather than it just feeling like there's a line in between the eyes. And I hate to get off topic here, but let's talk about those OCs. And let me just say that they're very generic and plain as all hell. I think adding some more elements to the OCs outside of shirts and differences in the animal type would really help to make the OCs stand out more as their own people, rather than as some generic blob thing. In fact, I think adding detail in general would generally help the art, since it would help give more depth to certain things like shirts and stuff like that. Considering that your OCs also have fur, I guarantee that this detail might need to be required in order to make them look more natural. They don't even have to be that complex, but a little bit more fur spots, for example, would definitely help the OCs stand out more as animals, rather than humans that have a few animalistic features on them. I will also say that putting them in backgrounds and putting them in more unique scenarios would also help them stand out at least a little bit more compared to what they are now. But anyway, let's stop with this art tangent before it gets way too long. There is also Gray's delivery as well, which comes up as very bland. Sure, you don't have to be a funny man every few seconds, but putting some more emotion to the voice would help them make it more bearable to the audience. I also think the bland delivery makes the video way too quiet as well, so you should also speak louder in order to make the audience more likely to hear you. Better to have a video that's a little bit too loud rather than a video that you cannot hear, you know? Finally, in terms of criticism for Gray, I think that there needs to be more effects to the video itself. Sure, the editing right now is fine, but I don't think there's enough editing gags to sustain the video for way too long. Because currently, the video editing goes bland character on screen. They do things. They just change. There's no other jokes to it, and I think that's one of the reasons why people aren't engaged with their videos. It's because you can't keep them engaged. Remember, video engagement is very, very important to attracting an audience. So that's why how I got an audience, for example. I've actually managed to get my own audience by being very entertaining, and I think you being the same would help a lot with your videos. Other than those problems, however, I still think Gray's a pretty decent content creator overall. I mean, she is just starting out right now, so there is a lot of room for improvement, so I wish Gray the best for her improvements, and I hope this becomes a long-living passion for her, kind of like how I've gained the passion myself. We are in with the ultimate gamer now with JJ Gamer, someone who, like the previous targets, makes mostly rants. And while I do feel like they're fine for the most part, I feel like he puts no passion to these videos. Firstly is the fact that these videos are way too short, with some points barely having any substance to them. For example, the Jack Mugen rant only spends around 30 seconds or so on the Jack vs Pink Kitty segment, when he could have expanded on the points he made by making the sections go on for at least another minute, and possibly showing some more examples. JJ's voice also sounds bored as fuck in the videos as well, which doesn't help with the fact that he's also inconsistent with his microphone, which makes it hard to hear him a lot of the time, which sucks. I also feel like his editing is way too basic, as the character doesn't even go on the side of the screen fully. Like, how do you even mess that up? There isn't any music in the background either, and he doesn't even place a priority to the screenshots. Like, seriously, those are two small and easy things that would make your editing so much better, and I feel like more people are willing to watch your videos if they manage to get the improvements from you. But currently, I think you're a very bland creator with a lot to improve from, and I don't really see too much personality coming out of you. Doesn't mean you're the worst creator on this list, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement. Something is rising now, and it certainly isn't my boner. It's actually Rising SK. Okay, bad boner jokes aside, Rising is a really good content creator who is heading in a pretty good direction, honestly. Rising mostly does videos on fangirls, and they are really fun and entertaining, along with his points being really good. His artwork is also really good for the style he's trying to achieve, though I really don't like the effect where it's constantly popping in and out between pictures. That's just kind of an annoying and distracting effect in my opinion. Rising's other non-fangirl rants are also rather decent for what they're worth. There isn't too much of them, but there is certainly enough to get some enjoyment out of them. The only big flaw I have with these videos, honestly, is the fact that there's a KindMaster watermark on the videos. I think he really should have paid for the watermark to be removed at this point, because it honestly looks pretty unprofessional and rather dumb in my opinion to have that watermark. But that's all I really got to say in terms of flaws of the videos. As other than that, in the nitpick I already mentioned before about the transitions, I think Rising is going to head in a very amazing direction, honestly. He even has an animated project in the works, which will hopefully show off his skills in a very professional manner and in an animated setting. So overall, I think Rising is a really underrated content creator, and I think you should really subscribe to him, as he does make some pretty good videos overall. Even if I did feel like they were a little bit short, I still think he's gonna get better and better as time goes on. So I wish you luck, Rising. I really hope you manage to have some good videos in the near future. Now we head on to what I consider the worst creator of the package fandom. That doesn't mean I think he's a bad user, but he still has a ton of flaws with him and his stuff that I feel like need to be ironed out in order for him to work better as a content creator. Let's first look at his review series, My Thoughts. And wow, this takes me back to DA rants from 2017, in the worst way possible. Yes, we are dealing with screen recorder DA rants in 2021. It's as bad as it sounds. With 0 real points being made and only reactions, along with it just being completely boring on the presentation front, there is a reason why these rants were phased out. Canro. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. If I were you right now, and I had to deal with this screen recorder series you have, I would just reboot My Thoughts into a proper rant series with scripts and editing. It would be way better than this. And if you're confident iMovie is not really a right software, well, just look at Bracket Neutron 37's earlier days and Leofan. They managed to use Windows Movie Maker in order to adequately make a point. And Windows Movie Maker is probably even more of a limited software than iMovie from my experience. Hell, even during my Monkey Poyo days, where I used iMovie, I made edited rants like this. Sure, they were kinda cringy, but at the same time though, it does prove that iMovie is a viable software in order to make rants. And even then, if you're still not confident, there's still a lot of ways to pirate editing software or download free alternatives on the web. Hell, if you still want to get paid, there's certainly $20 editing softwares that can do just fine. And I know it might be scary heading into this new edited territory, but you can hopefully get some advice from people like your friends, for example, in order to how to get it right. It's certainly way better than doing these screen recorder rants that really have nothing to do with the rant itself and just end up being just random reactions. That's all I realistically have to say about My Thoughts, because overall, My Thoughts isn't really a series with much substance to it to talk about. It's just very, very boring, and it just really needs a reboot, because it's just far from salvation. But that isn't just the only thing Kanaro has been doing. Oh no, he has a movie in the works. What movie exactly? It's called The 2033 End. Wow, what an edgy title. And based on the trailers I've seen for this movie, this is looking to be a huge edgy A-log fest. Let's start off with the fact that the concept is inherently flawed. Seriously, the idea of some questionable users causing the apocalypse and killing people is a really silly and A-loggy thing to think about. Sure, most of these users here are fucked up or annoying as all hell, but killing them in this angst fest comes off as way too immature and makes the warning in the very beginning very hypocritical. It honestly reminds me of something the military brat would draw, just for some form of reference here. The aesthetics of this movie also looks bad, since most of the images and art don't mix well, and come off as really jarring together, alongside the multimedia characters not fitting with the artwork characters. It's really a sight to behold, to be honest. And while the artwork itself is far from bad, it's not really the worst I've even seen on sites like DeviantArt, it still doesn't look good at all. It mostly has to do with the art looking super amateurish, with the characters in the same pose with very little variety, and there being very little attention to the anatomy, since the arms and legs have almost zero bending bones, the hair looks more like a turd on a bald person rather than being hair, the feet just look like they're on stilts all the time, and everyone's favorite thing, circle tool head. Yay! So yeah, studying human anatomy and some more time to refine the art will help you a lot. And stop relying on the same poses for characters. More dynamic poses will allow you to express their anatomy better, and will also make your art way less samey. That's just a mild suggestion I have from someone who previously had some very bland looking art. That isn't even talking about how overly edgy the characters look like. Like, I get it, it's the apocalypse, but some of these characters look so cluttered with so many useless details that they just look flat out ugly. And hey, look, I could do the same thing as you. Look at how edgy my OC is. Isn't it crawling in his skin? Rawr. The dialogue is also fairly cheesy as well, with most of it sounding like knockoff Marvel and edgy stuff. What also makes it cheesy is the top tier voice acting from Kanaro, Bry, and everyone's favorite, text-to-speech! Yay! And yeah, while I'm not exactly against text-to-speech being used in videos and such, I only think it really works in more comedic situations, or if it's like in a very beginning part of something like a commentary and you don't have any friends. But in something like a movie like this, I think it's really unfitting to have text-to-speech voices. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about those. As for Bry and Kanaro, well, it just seems like they have non-existent voice direction at all. It just comes off as very bland, very boring, and overall doesn't really fit the context of any of the situations they're in. It just sounds like they're not even trying at all. That is all I have to say about the movie here, since the movie is just looking to be a huge angst fest that anyone outside of Kanaro and his friends will find boring. And I mean, if this was intended to be a personal project, I wouldn't mind, but he's planning to release this on YouTube, so I have every right to criticize it as harshly as I do. So yeah, Kanaro overall as a creator is someone that needs to step away from the screen recorded rants and needs to make better movies. I hope he improves to get out of the edgy phase because, man, that edgy phase is really making him come off with tons of edgy takes. Like, I'm even kind of an edgelord, and I find some of this stuff edgy. But time will tell whenever he gets out of that edgy phase, so let's move on to our final content creator before I gain the angst from Kanaro. Finally, we head to the biggest creator here, Maniac of Cyanide. And out of all the people here, in terms of overall YouTube content, Maniac is the best, albeit not immune to flaws. His rants are the best rants that we looked at in terms of clones. In fact, they rival PackagedReviewer quality, as of the 0x Paladin E4 rant. That is because Maniac has good delivery, good points, and is overall entertaining to watch. I've also noticed Maniac managed to step up his quality in terms of production values lately. He has really started to become an excellent ranter in terms of his production values and his points. So I really do have hope for him in the future, and it's really turning out to be great. In fact, he's certainly way better than a lot of the other people we covered in this video. Of course, while Maniac makes pretty great rants, he also has other stuff behind his belt as well. Firstly, being narrations. The narrations I have nothing really to comment on since it's just reading something, nothing too special, but it's far from the worst I've seen. Albeit it doesn't really have too much humor, which kind of ruins the appeal in my opinion, but if he just has a little bit more humor, I think he'll be completely fine. As for the reviews he does, well, while there's only one of them, I can certainly say it's a very bad review. Mostly because he just gets angry at Lincoln and focuses more on the fandom rather than the character itself. It really comes off he just wants to spite off fans, which, honestly, I can't blame him for spiting fans, but there is a time and place to really spite against people, and honestly, I don't think a proper review really should have that kind of stuff. Other than the point just being kind of sludgy, I still think Maniac's reviews are still good, but I just consider it just kind of a weak beginning to his reviews. I won't judge this off the reviews itself, because it's only the first one, and it just started off as a very weak topic. So yeah, I just hope he manages to improve the next few reviews, and I really hope he does have good reviews, because I would love to see another channel with great reviews, honestly. Other than the whole bad review thing, the worst thing I can really say about Maniac, honestly, is the fact that he just gets so angry at stuff, and his anger issues really show. I know it's used for humor, but with something like the AVGN, while he does make great points about games, at the end of the day, he is a character who makes tons of funny jokes to the audience in hopes they laugh. Without the whole character part of it, it really just comes off as more of an autistic temper tantrum over basic DeviantArt stuff, rather than actual jokes like what the AVGN does. That's all I have to say in terms of Maniac's main YouTube content, but guess what? Maniac also has his own movie. How beautiful. Yeah, this movie's basically the end 2033, but replace Canaro with Maniac, Heavy Swag with Justice Squad / Rose Lover, replace the extra characters with the people from the Package fandom, remove all original artwork and replace it the Apocalypse plotline with a Marvel movie plot or something. Yeah, they're just that similar, and it's still just as much of an analog fest of a movie. In fact, I think it's unknowingly logged attitude like this, which has inevitably impacted the Package fandom. Of course, none of them have made their own cinematic masterpieces, since they're all untalented hacks, but they have made tons of pictures A-logging users with Package covered. Mostly Bart-Toons, but other users have been victims of A-logs as well, and I'll cover that later. But for now, my point is that stuff like the End 2033 and the Maniac movie is encouraging these A-logs to make hate art. Ignoring that, however, my overall thoughts on the Maniac movie from what I've seen is that it's rather blah overall, but it comes off as overly angsty towards people who I feel like don't deserve the harsh treatment they get. Like, seriously, these are just people, not super evil supervillains. That's all I really have to say about that though, as the subject matter is really identical between the both of the movies. Like, seriously, they're so uncannily similar. As for Maniac himself, I really hope he improves in terms of the reviews and the narrations, and I think he's perfectly fine in terms of the rant part. I think he's a perfect channel to subscribe to if you're looking for more underrated channels. I wish you luck, Maniac, on any sort of future products, except for the Maniac movie. I just don't like that. And that's all he wrote about all these members. And overall, what a mixed but hopeful bag. I do see tons of potential to be the next big stars in the ranting scene, if improvements are made, along with getting out all those angsty phases you seem to have. And unlike Jack or Maxi, you guys actually listen to criticism, so I do see hope in you guys getting better, but while the creators are important, I feel like something else has to be mentioned. The fans. Yep, these guys. Now I already mentioned these guys before in the Maniac segment, but I need to go into more detail in order to get my point across, as these people really stink. So, you know how I talked about the creators of the Package fandom? Well, these fans take the worst aspects from them in order to make a bunch of A-logs. And that's basically how we get these Package fans. These fans, okay, I'll shut up, do many things like the aforementioned A-logging of users like Bart-Toons and saving towards Package in the comment section. Here's a few examples of such simping I've noticed.
Father has blessed us with more.
Wait, it's a red special video. Always has been. Red number 13 win.
Wow, he's so jerk.
Hey Package, could you make a rent out of Barbaric Catalan cause she make weird pictures of humanized clinkers made by Zooticity and Mixels 2 plus she did to Parappa 2.
455 XD, lol, I agree with your reaction.
What I find most funny about these fans, however, is that a lot of them are either super cringy or lolcowbait themselves, making them super hypocritical considering who they simp. It really reminds me of the Bracket Neutron Auto Magic fandoms around 2017 or so. The only difference is that while most of the Bracket and Auto fan base comes from YouTube, Packages most of the time comes from DeviantArt. Not shocked where Packages fans come from, to be honest though, considering Package is on DA, and DA has slowly become more of an autistic, idiotic fest since 2012, and permanently cemented itself as such when Eclipse made the rounds, and most of the good artists left the platform. Now I already talked about John, Jack, and Maxi, who are the big three when it comes to the fandom, but here are some more examples of these fans, and those include Mr. Rapti, an ex-friend of Maniac, Zerdy, and Ernex, who was a fucking mental lunatic. Ernex made an amazing rant on him, and a few others have as well. But in short, Mr. Rapti harassed someone, is a hack who's unable to make a good video no matter if it's memes, music, or other things. And I need to put extra emphasis on the fact that he did a video which was essentially a ripoff of Maniac's Justice Squad rant, and acted like a special ed kid on cocaine in Discord calls. It really reminds me of John with how embarrassing he was. So yeah, he's just really an embarrassing person who needs to go to a mental asylum. Fanny from BFB. Someone who makes masterpieces of memes that are also so dank that dank has lost all its meaning. Okay, but in all seriousness, it's all hypocritical to making filler memes when Package has shown to hate those. And also there is Frankmaster61. Basically the same as Fanny from BFB, only with way more filler memes and minions. Isabelle LeBron 2006. Just some random 14-year-old girl who is mega obsessed with the Package fandom, mostly with Zerdy. Hell, she has her own rants, which are mediocre to say the least. And the only real problem I really have with them is a lack of screenshots. Other than that though, they're just rants of people who have been over-reviewed to death. And she also has some whack-ass anatomy with her pictures as well. Like, look at those arms. And especially that head. She also treats the users that Package covered as evil villains, and has people fight them. Yeah, like these basement dwellers could commit war crimes, and could be super villains. Ugh. But even with her disliking the users Package covered, she still likes Noah. You know, that guy with the edgy Pooh's Adventure-like series, and has a crush on Usagi? Yeah, that guy. So yeah, just a typical girl with a crush on a few guys who will run away due to her vagina stink. DDMIUMI1234. Yet another fangirl, this time of Kanaro. And yep, that Edgelord spirit is at play here, along with some jank-ass anatomy. Like, seriously, those eyes. And even earlier drawings had some very long-ass legs. Like, really, really long. And yep, someone on this planet type for the end 2033, aka the A-Log movie. Also, funny peanut cookie. Oh wait, it's Cooks. Whoopsie dingles. Other than the Kanaro fangirling, I see no difference between her and Isabelle LeBron 2006. Mr. Jadabi Kerbery. Oh boy, this user. He's probably one of the worst Package fans of all time. His art style is rather amateurish, with his persona looking bland as fuck and having a shit-ass eating grin. Like, seriously, that's one shit-eating grin if I've seen one. He is also a major hypocrite as well, considering that he hates Pink Kitty and Nugget for their pedophilia when he puts his 11-year-old OC girl in diapers and pissing on them, which is fucking gross and, ironically enough, pedophilia. That's all I'm going to say on them, because I need to save this user for when I review a DA artists, because this guy has a whole lot to him, and how hypocritical of a Package fan he is. But there is only one other person I can think of that is worse than Mr. Jadef Cadbury when it comes to being a Package fan. Dark Lord Henry. Yeah, we are going there. But Spacey, Dark Lord Henry is one of Package's targets. True, but he's also been known to be an A-log and still tries to suck up to them. For some reason, I'm not 100% sure. For the most part, the A-logging is all about beating certain users to the ground by saying that they're liking fan brats, pedophiles, etc, etc. When, ironically enough, she constantly shows attraction to Lincoln Loud by not only constantly defending him, but also putting him in fetishy situations, and what makes it worse is that Lincoln is 11 to 12 years old. So yeah, Henry, you are a pedophile and a Lincoln fan brat. That is just a basic overview of Henry as an A-log and a bad person. If you want to learn more, check out Package's rant on Henry, because I can't emphasize enough how much of a bad person Henry is. Wow, that was a lot of users. But some of you are wondering, Spacey, what's the point of talking about all these users? And my answer is that I just wanted to show off how bad some of these A-loggers can get in the fandom, and treat this as a call to action for the package fandom in order to stop these people, or at the very least, discourage them for doing these kind of A-loggy actions. And I already know Package discouraged this already in both the Q&A and the Henry rant, but I think a more detailed response will help get the point across more efficiently. That is all I have to say here, since I've given all that I have regarding all these A-loggers. So let's end this off with some final thoughts on the fandom. Well, gee, this is gonna be one hell of a summary. So let me just say that while there are a ton of bad eggs in this fandom, it doesn't mean you're automatically a bad person if you're a part of it. Think of it like the Sonic fanbase, where there's some great people, but a lot of bad people. Okay? Good. Anyway... Wow, this fanbase is really fucking bad. And while it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, as it does have several creators which I like and think have some potential, the bad apples are really bad A-logs that remind me way too much of those user group people who sucked up the Automagic Critic and Bracket Neutron back in 2017 and bashed people who made grounded videos while still acting like those people. The only differences I see now is that they're only on DeviantArt, and they tend to associate with the Loud House instead of other more childish autistic shows. What I also feel like doesn't help is the movies, like the Maniac movie, and especially Canaro's The 2300 End, which, at least in my opinion, is why I think these people have gotten the "these users must be destroyed" mentality. And even without those things, their movies are still looking to be bland, mediocre, and laughable as all hell, in a very ironic way. Speaking of those videos, I feel like a lot of them have a lot of work to do, whenever that be editing, artwork, or just making more than 1 or 2 episodes of their shows. Unlike people like Jack Mugen, however, I do see these careers improving over time and listening to my criticisms, so I can wish them good luck on their future endeavors. As for the A-logs and the fangirls, however, they should really get some help and stay away from the fandom. They do not need to pollute it with A-log garbage that ruins the value of some decent creators, and I hope the package fandom discourages these fans in order for their reputations to not be ruined even further. But that's all I have to say on the matter of Package of Friends, and the fandom that surrounds them. So anyway, I hope you all have a really fun time watching this video, and oh wait, I need to promote the Q&A video that I'm doing. So yeah, go click on that video and go ask a few questions if you can. So yeah, that's all I have to say here, and for now, I'll just have to say goodbye!
For reals this time!